Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first Business Growth Roundtable of 2024. Let us bring Anthony Arena to the stage on behalf of NJBIA. Anthony, you want to turn your camera and mic on so that you can fill us in on what's going on at NJBIA. We'll give Anthony a minute, and we're excited to have all of you here. Rachel, what are we going into year 4 or year 3?
We're going into year 4.
Unbelievable. And we've got exciting things scheduled for the upcoming year. I guess Anthony must be having a little difficulty. So
you guys can't hear me?
Oh, we can hear you. We don't see your video, though, if you want to put your video on.
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I can put it on for him, I think.
No, it's fine.
There we go. Welcome, Anthony. Tell our audience a little bit about what's going on at NJBIA these days.
Sure. Thank you very much, everyone. I look forward to working with all of you and joining us here for Business Growth Roundtable, our first in 2024. I hope everyone had a nice New Year's. A lot of things are taking place at NJBIA. We have several events that are happening that are coming up in the upcoming months. We have our Insights and Outlooks in March. We have our DEI corporate and nonprofit forum that's taking place in April, along with other signature events that take place throughout the year. If you have any questions or want some more information on it, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll put my information in the chat. I'm actually new to NJBIA. I am 2 months, and I'm working with Betty, Boris, and her team, and it's been a great time so far. So thank you so much. Moving forward, I'm sorry, Donna, go ahead. I was going to introduce you.
We're glad to have you here at the table.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. So, as most of you know, I am Donna Miller. I am Chief Visionary Officer at C3 Workplace and founder of Donna Miller Business Growth Consulting. And for nearly 30 years, I can't believe it's going to be 30 years in October. I don't know how that happened. We've been helping companies to accelerate growth by providing business advisory and support services around operations, business development, and finance. We allow growing teams and business owners to work smarter by focusing on those things that truly drive the business forward. Our clients know that by bringing in us to build systems that are efficient and connected and executable, they are laying the foundation for a company that will run and grow without them involved in every little detail. If you'd like to know more about that, you know how to reach me at this point. Now, before we get into our program, which Rachel Durkin is going to deliver for us today, which is super exciting, a little bit of housekeeping. We are recording this webinar. You, by all means, it's a virtual event. Use the chat window to interact with each other, to introduce yourself. That's our virtual networking these days. We will allow time during this presentation at the end for Q&A. We will ask you to use the Q&A tab as opposed to the chat, and the fabulous Vicky Hart will come on a bit later to facilitate the Q&A. It's a big group. The chat gets a little unwieldy. So before we get into the program, let me talk a little bit about our sponsors who are part of the collaborative community that pulled this event off, and we are really grateful for their help. So first of all, Kim Luthi. We want to thank Kim, who is Director of Wealth Planning at Synthesis Wealth, for her continued support of the Roundtable. Kim is celebrating her 35th anniversary because she started when she was 4. And she is a steadfast advocate for her clients, and she is passionate about helping them navigate their financial journey as a certified financial planner, a credential not many hold. She focuses on helping her clients prepare for the unexpected as if it's expected. That was very good, Kim. She also runs a group called the Vision Network. And I want to say Kim and I both believe in the power of manifestation. I believe if you combine your vision with strategy and execution, that's how you make big stuff happen. And that starts with getting clear on where you want to go. Kim has a group called the Vision Network, which will be getting together February 12th to help you create your vision. If you want to know more about that, contact Kim, who will be in the chat, and her information will also be in follow-up. We also need to thank Cal Thomas. Cal is president of Sandler Training in Morristown, a sales, management, and customer service training and coaching organization. I bet you didn't know all that about Cal. Interestingly, and not so coincidentally, Paradigm, C3, and NJBIA are all clients of Sandler. I know it has been instrumental in helping me to improve my close ratios. I know Rachel's team has amazing conversion stories on that as well. In working with Cal, we've learned to close more business faster and more easily. And I think Cal will be telling you, oh, there it is, right in the chat, right on time. Cal and Sandler will be having their annual Women in Sales Scholarship. I think that application opens or is already open. There it is in your chat. It's an amazing program. Don't miss out on the opportunity for that training. So last but not least, before I remove myself from the stage and hand the meeting to Rachel, in February, we are really exciting to welcome Scott Weintraub to the stage. We're going to talk a little bit about selling your business and exit strategies. And this is something Scott has done repeatedly. And I don't know about all of you, but I have been working on my exit strategy since I opened my company 30 years ago. And so February will be an opportunity for us to have a conversation about what that might look like, Scott's experience and your experience as well, and a little bit of mine thrown in there as well. So with all of that, let me hand the table to the fabulous Rachel Durkin of Paradigm Marketing and Design. Take it away, Rachel.
Thank you, Donna, as always. Real quick before I jump in, I just want to mention we are currently looking for one more sponsor for 2024. So if you're interested in sponsoring the roundtable and joining our team, reach out to Donna or I. Donna, if you can throw your email in the chat, and we can reach out and we'll be happy to discuss how to partner with us on this awesome event that brings in that could bring a ton of new leads into your database. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. I know I can do technology today. Here we go. All right. Okay. Now, can somebody tell me in the chat, you guys can see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you, Donna. All right. So we're going to get started. Today, we are talking about marketing in a volatile economy. So I think that by a show of hands in the chat, I don't think maybe some of you are going to claim that you know what's going to happen in 2024, but depending on who I listen to, I have no idea, depending on the news network or the Economist, what is going to happen this year. But first, a little bit about Paradigm. As Donna mentioned, my name is Rachel Durkin. I am the president of Paradigm Marketing and Design. We are a web marketing, design, and automation agency that specializes in working with clients with a complex sale. So if you have a sales team that requires a conversation to close a deal, we can help them shorten their sales cycle and increase the number of meetings they're having by collaborating with them to create a marketing to sales infrastructure. So with that, I'm going to jump in. So the first thing that I want to briefly touch upon, and I'm sure, I hope none of the economists or financial advisors in the room are going to call bullshit on me, but I think I know what I'm talking about, is the general economic outlook. Depending on what week it is in the last month or which news outlet or economist you ask, they have different outlooks on what's going to happen in the economy. Are we going to be in a recession? Is it going to be a soft landing? Is it going to be a light recession? Generally, I look at things like the consumer confidence index. For those of you who aren't aware, if it's below 100, there's a generally negative outlook by consumers in the economy, and it's negative, fortunes. And then if it's above 100, it is a positive outlook. So we are seeing a downward trend, and we're continuing to see it, but it's starting to level out. When I did this presentation back in December, I had I was saying something different on this slide. But as I mentioned, there's a lot of different outlooks as to what's going to happen in the economy. If you are asking, I was looking at some studies, and Bank of America is expecting 1.4% GDP growth next year. Wells Fargo is expecting 0.7% GDP growth. Commonwealth Financial said 3.75% GDP growth, which is huge. And Vanguard saw a decline of 0.5%, which would be a recession. So depending on who you're asking, different experts are claiming different outcomes for 2024 and what that's going to look like. And so the uncertainty, I always talk to Vicky on my sales team, during COVID, it was very clear we were in a recession. And so it was easier, in my opinion, to adjust and make quick moves and actually leverage the opportunity of the crisis at hand. But when there's uncertainty, 1 week things are looking up, 1 week things are looking down, it's very hard to adjust your strategy appropriately to capitalize on either a crisis or ride growth. So how do we handle that? Well, first, I just want to point out the facts of a downturn. In the last couple recessions, so in 2008, more than 170,000 small businesses closed. And at the time, they accounted for 52% of the US workforce. But what it did is it forced innovation. So we moved into, I'm sure many of you remember, the gig economy. And as a result of the gig economy, things changed. Amazon skyrocketed. Uber and Airbnb became household names. All of this industry, even if it's not Uber Eats, but I don't know why the shopping one is leaving me now because I use it all the time. Somebody put it in the chat when somebody goes grocery shopping for you. But essentially, all of these industries rose because of the gig economy. So as a result of 2008, a new world or industrial world was formed. In 2020, we saw something similar. 4.4 million businesses opened in 2021, which was a 24.3% increase from businesses in 2019. So we had a huge number of closures, but more businesses opened after 2020 than those that closed. So again, it created a new sector of growth, mostly in technology, service, and freelance work. So my point is that with every change in the marketplace, every downturn, every crisis, an opportunity arises. And if you can figure out how to capitalize on that opportunity, you can follow that growth wave that inevitably comes after a recession. They did a study in 2008 recession, and they asked users they found that companies that marketed through the recession grew 275% over the next 5 years, and companies that did not market only grew 19%. So there was a huge liftoff for companies that doubled down and grabbed market share during a recession, because while everyone's pulling back, if you're investing even just a little bit, you're going to be ahead of the curve and get a head start for when the economy starts to recover. Now, again, going back to my earlier slides of we're not quite sure, are we in a recession? Are we not? We can tell that there's definitely stress in the market. So how do we capitalize on it when there's not a clear line of what's occurring? So let's talk about 4 strategies that you can do right now to grab market share, regardless of where you are. These are kind of best practices, but they're especially important during a volatile economy and or economic downturn. Now, I could talk about each one of these for hours, so I'm going to brush upon them at a very high level, and then I'm going to leave you resources at the end of each section so that you can dig deeper into it if you want to. So the first one is identifying new audience opportunities. As I mentioned, new industries occur when they come out of the recession. And we also know that depending on what the recession is and what it's occurring, certain industries are going to fail or lose budget, and certain ones are going to have an opportunity for growth. Think Zoom or video conferencing during COVID. So how do we handle that? The first thing that I always think about is, who should I be marketing to? Is the audience that I'm currently marketing to, do they have a budget? Do they have a need? Sometimes they don't have a need or they don't have a budget, but they need both. Also, I always reevaluate my audience. So even if it's not a recession or a volatile time, you want to reevaluate your audience every 6 months to a year to make sure you have a clear understanding of their psychographics, which I'll talk more about in a minute. But during volatility, I really reevaluate my audience every 3 months. Am I going after the right person? Is there an opportunity in the marketplace? And how should I be shifting my solutions in order to serve different audiences to hit their need? Now, how do I figure out who my audience should be? Hopefully, we all have, what do they say? Know your audience like a science project or like the back of your hand. You should know everything about them. but how can you shift your solutions to similar audiences? One of the things that I often look at every month is the jobs report. Now, December's jobs report was very different than November's jobs report. The holiday had a lot to do with that. But so you're not looking at it in 1 month, you're looking at it as a trend. I always want to be paying attention to who's hiring and who's not, who's holding stagnant and who's letting people go. That's going to be an indicator of budgets, people who have no budget now, but who might have a budget later. If you're doing a lot of layoffs and you're leveling out, for example, that doesn't necessarily mean there's not an opportunity there, because if you're doing a lot of layoffs, now your current sales force is going to be overwhelmed and there might be an opportunity for outsourcing if you're a professional service provider, for example. So understanding who's doing layoffs, who's hiring, who's remaining in a trend, not necessarily in a snapshot, is going to help you consider what industries you should be looking at. So you can look at the government report, you can look at the ADP jobs report. I know there's a lot of debate over which one is accurate and why. But both of them show us trends that are occurring. And so it's important to keep an eye on those. So whichever report you want to stick with, just make sure you're following it to watch how industries are moving, and that'll indicate to you budget and need. The other thing that I always look at is, where is the opportunity in the marketplace? So one of the things we know, no matter what, through the next several years, probably the next generation or two, is that we are going to be in a labor crunch. It's going to be unlikely that we have a high unemployment rate, even if we go into a mild recession, because the baby boomers were such a large generation. I think that the millennials were the only generation slightly larger than the baby boomers, but not even enough to fill all of the jobs that they're leaving behind. So we do not have enough of a labor force right now. Labor is going to remain tight. So that leaves a lot of opportunity for professional service consultants, for example. Marketing consultants might be able to fill a gap when you can't hire marketing people. Automation is going to become increasingly important. Besides, the fact that AI is just super cool, that's going to become really important to how we do more with less labor. So think about what's happening in the marketplace. Also, where's VC money going? VC, PE money in mergers and acquisitions. I know that last year and into this year, most investments are in med tech and AI right now, and that VC money was way down in 2023, but that it's expected to kind of stagnate, grow slightly in 2024, and then exceed significantly next year. One resource I really like to watch VC money and PE money is PitchBook. That's a great publication. I think it's paid, but it's really worth it. You get a lot of information about what VC and PE money is doing, where they're investing, and what the trends look like. And we know, even if we don't serve a customer with that takes PE or VC money, there's a trickle down effect to understand the industries that have money that are being flowed into them. Also, there's not a lot of IPOs happening this year. So last year. So VC money is very tied up. And they're expected that when IPOs start to move again, hopefully this year, VC money is going to be able to move and reinvest. We think that consumer spending is going to remain high, but business spending is going to remain tight because, again, in order to have a true recession, we have to have lower consumer spending, but that doesn't mean it's not working its way through the business market. So if you're serving consumers, you might have a better opportunity than if you're serving businesses. We know that manufacturing and business spending is likely going to slow down, and that we know that the housing market is probably going to be impacted with the drop in rates this year. There's just a few of the things that we see that are changing. My point is, every one of these means something for an industry. It can mean opportunity or it can mean decline, and paying attention to that might give you an advantage over what industries you should be targeting as you go to market in the next 3 months. Now, how do we make sure we understand our new target audience or our current target audience and reevaluate their needs? Because their needs are going to be changing as these things change. This is something that's called an audience matrix. There's a lot of information here, and I'm going to explain it to you. You do not have to read it verbatim, but we always do at Paradigm an audience matrix as the very first thing we do for our clients when we bring them on before we write the marketing plan. And what an audience matrix is the one-sheet document that's repeated for every single audience based on psychographics. So in other words, you'll have this document repeated by industry, by decision maker, and you might have 10 or 12 of these for your company, depending on how many audiences that you go after. Now, this is a great example. This is for our automation and workflow services. And in this case, we're targeting, how people who might need a CRM. that are the CEO, the president, and the COO. Now, the reason I combined CEO, president, and COO for this specific document is because generally they have the same psychographic needs. They have the same wants for a CRM. A sales director, for example, is also going to be a target audience for this service, but they're going to have different needs and different pain than the CEO, president, and COO. So I'm going to put them on a different slide. Now, when you're doing an audience matrix, you want to outline who you're going after and if it makes sense, the industry. And then you want to go through their pain, the business impacts, the buying triggers, and the barriers. The pain is going to be their personal pain. What is their psychiatric or psychological, I know I can talk today, need for this service? They are feeling frustrated. I know this is like a big Cal thing, right? Cal, so feel free to chime in on the chat. But they're feeling frustrated with something. They are concerned. They're worried. They're excited. This is what's keeping them up at night personally. What is bothering them personally that this solution is going to solve? And that is relevant whether this is a business solution. They're still people. They still have challenges and stressors that are a result of their work. So how can your service or solution or product make that executive's life easier? The business impact is statistically, why is this smart for the business? If I'm taking this to my board of directors or to my CEO or my boss, what is my business argument for needing this product or service? So you're going to want to outline that under business impact. Then you're going to want to talk through buying triggers. What is going to happen in their environment that's going to make them want to do this? There's going to be something that occurs. So for example, maybe the companies are trying to blend sales teams or two companies together. Maybe their sales teams are ineffective and they're trying to figure out how to hold them harder to KPIs. Maybe they are trying to set up a new commission infrastructure and it's really messy. These are all triggers of why an executive team is going to come to us to update their CRM system or implement a new CRM system. And then there's, of course, the barriers to implementing it. Why would somebody not want to implement a CRM? So that our sales team and our marketing team can combat those things in our messaging strategy. So you want to repeat this slide for every single audience. And this is going to be like your playbook for when you go to market, when you outline your value propositions, when your sales team goes to talk to your target audience. This is a great cheat sheet that we then use to influence all of the decisions we make. So let me ask you, I have some polls. Let's see if I can handle this. Uh-oh, my polls disappeared. Oh, in the drop down. All right, so go ahead and answer this, guys. How many of you reevaluate your target audience? Or I'm sorry, how often do you reevaluate your target audience? I'll give you all a minute to answer. Don't worry, we won't judge you. I'll give you one more second. It's pretty good. All right, I'm going to end it, and I'll share with you guys. Can you guys see this? Donna or Vicky?
Sure can.
All right, perfect.
Yeah,
All right, so it looks like good for you guys. It looks like a lot of us are doing it periodically. So again, during a volatile economy, I think it's something that we should be looking at every 3 to 6 months. All right, that's actually better than I've seen. So good for you guys. All right, and then the next one, I mentioned I would have more resources for you guys for everything. If you are interested in learning more about or downloading an audience matrix, we have templates and explanations on our website if you visit this link. And Vicky's also dropping links into the chat. So you are welcome to go download this tool, and then you can go ahead and execute it and shorten that cycle from periodically to 3 to 6 months. All right, number 2, building your brand assets. Okay, so brand assets. Think of I don't like to use the word brand building in a small business environment because brand building, I feel like it's become a bad word. It's become a catch-all. Like, I'm going to help you build your brand. Okay, we're not Coca-Cola. We're not running a Nielsen study. Knowing, understanding pulse surveys from across the country on your brand awareness is not going to help your business if you're in the SMB market. But building your brand assets will. So what are brand assets? Imagine that you own an auditorium and you can stand on that stage and there's millions of seats in it and you can say whatever you want, whenever you want. And if there's people in your auditorium who care about what you have to say, they're going to listen. If no one's in that auditorium, you look like a crazy person when you're standing on the stage. And if that auditorium is filled with people who came because you promised them a free iPad, nobody cares what you're saying. So your auditorium is your email list. It is your social following. It is your website hits. It's people that are in your stratosphere listening and caring about what you have to say. Now, what's important here is, to me, think of it as buying and renting. You are renting your website hits and your social media followers. They're there and they're hearing you and they're seeing you periodically, and we can set up advertising so that they stay engaged. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. But the true measure of success is building your CRM and your email list. If you can build that, you are owning those names and you can re-engage them over time. The goal is to build the auditorium with people who care about your product, service, or solution, and then allow yourself, which enables you to re-engage them. And I will give you an example. I had a client during COVID. We had been working with them for a couple of years before COVID, and think of them as a telecom agency, similar to Zoom, but they're more secure. You'd kill me if you heard me say that. But they are, they only resold their product through MSPs, managed service providers. So you couldn't buy their product direct. You had to go through an MSP. So for years, they had been building up their database with MSPs so that they would become resellers of their product. Now, they had a very large database, not even a very small percentage of people in their database were people that actually use their product. Most of them were prospects. Now, when COVID hit, we were 3 days in, the owner called me and he said to me, I'm going to give our service to anybody who wants it for free for 3 months. It was a genius move. I sent out 2 emails and they had hundreds of signups by the end of the week of new users. Now, actually, it was more like thousands of signups and new users, hundreds of new clients. Now, we know that when you use technology, whatever you're using initially, you're going to adopt, you're going to use, and then probably likely stay with it. So because he had his brand assets filled, his auditorium was full, we were able to send out 2 emails and get a ton of new customers that week. If he had asked me to do the same promotion without his auditorium filled, without a database, I would have had to spend thousands and thousands of dollars in advertising, and we would have not gotten close to the same results. So building your brand assets allows you to ensure, think of it as an annuity. It ensures future growth over time. It's not necessarily direct ROI, but it's what you need to build your database to then nurture it later. We know on average, and I'm going to talk about this later also, it takes 9 to 13 touches to engage our audience, which is up now at this time, but because budgets are tight. But getting people in your database so that you can nurture them is the fastest way to a qualified conversion to make your sales team more effective. So I'm going to do another poll. Let's see if my technology skills can handle this. Okay. And this one is, how often do you strategically drive qualified leads to your database? I'm assuming people can see because it's moving. It's kind of weird just staring at yourself on the screen, but I think it's going well. All right. Okay, I'm going to give it one more second and then I'm going to end it and share it with you guys. Ooh, right down the middle. All right, so we've got 33% across the board. Some people are doing this strategically and regularly. Some people are doing it periodically, and some aren't doing it at all. So this is something you definitely want to think about. If it's something you are not doing at all, go ahead and check out this webinar on building brand assets to give you some more ideas. It's much more robust than what I just chatted about. I'll give you a lot more information. Okay. Number 3, partnership marketing. So one of the challenges that we have in a volatile economy or in a recession or when sales are down is that we have fewer sales. So we have to cut back on cost. In order to cut back on cost, we cut back on our marketing and on our innovation, which means that we have less ability to market, which leads to fewer sales. And it's a vicious cycle of decline. So the question becomes, how do we combat this? You can bite the bullet and borrow money or get a loan and invest more in marketing. And of course, that's very scary to many business owners. Or you can get more innovative and creative in your marketing strategy. How do you expand your reach with less money and make a bigger impact. What's the saying? 1 + 1 make 3, or how do you make 1 + 1 make 7 or 5 or a million? So I like to leverage that with partnership marketing. The roundtable itself is a great example of partnership marketing. During COVID, we started during COVID. Everybody was freaking out back then. I'm sure you all remember. And, we went from a paradigm itself, went from a selling structure of in-person sales, which is where most of our revenue came from, to having to shift to being behind a screen even more than we already were. Other associations like BIA or chambers were having a similar problem. So what did we decide to do? We came up with this concept of a virtual networking space. At the time, we did a program called Table for Four, and that was successful because it was virtual networking. And then we launched the Business Growth Roundtable. At the time, it was called the Sales and Marketing Roundtable. So I went to Donna and I said, I have an idea. She loves it when I say that. Put that in the chat, Donna. You can tell everybody how much you love it when I come to you and say that. And she never curses at me or anything when I say those words. But I said, I have an idea. Let's put together a business growth roundtable that allows us to pool resources and market, to provide value, resources, and information to our target audience. So Donna and I share a similar target audience, yet do different services. And we decided we needed another partner. So we reached out to Kate at the time at BIA, and their challenge was that they were now a membership organization in a digital world, and they did not have a lot of digital events happening. We were a great solution to them. They could provide greater member value with digital events. Donna and I would do the heavy legwork on what the events looked like and how to market them. And then we all got access to sharing our marketing efforts together. It was a really good strategy that started off strong and then got even stronger. The point is that by leveraging a partnership approach, we were able to pool our marketing resources. We were able to pool our dollars. We were able to pool the work. And we were able to cross market. So I had access to Donna's list. Donna had access to my list. We got access to BIA's list, and around we went. Now, to add on to that, we brought on sponsors. So we had a really good thing going. We had a great event that was bringing in lots of people, and that had really amazing speakers. And so we started bringing in sponsors. And the benefit to sponsors is if you invest a little bit of money, you get a ton of exposure, you get access to our list, you get to be part of the cross-marketing benefit. And as a result, today, this roundtable has a huge, huge reach. I mean, our email list, we reach almost over 100,000 people every single month. More than that, actually, I'm sorry, almost 200,000 people every single month. So it's a very large reach. And then depending on the advertising we're doing, in addition, forget dollared advertising, just in our cross marketing, we have close to 100,000 reach. And then you add in advertising, it's close to 1 million. So and we spend very little money a month now because we're pooling our resources. So by having 5 partners that are sharing in the work, sharing in the effort, sharing in the funding, we are able to have a huge reach that we wouldn't get otherwise for a significant less amount of money. So considering partnership marketing is a great way to get a greater reach and greater exposure and greater ROI to build your database without having to spend a ton. Now, when you're picking partners though, there's got to be a couple rules. First of all, you want to make sure you're identifying every partner's goals at the beginning. We all need to know why we're here, because we're not here. This is business, right? We're not here for fun, though hopefully it's fun while you're doing it. And we're not here for charity. So I knew my goals. I wanted to fill my database and increase my exposure with less money. Donna had a similar goal. BIA wanted to be able to provide value to its membership. All of us had a different goal, but this one event achieved all of those goals for each of us. So knowing why everyone's here is really important. Make sure you're identifying the right partner. Everyone has to bring something to the table, whether it's resources and knowledge, money, or a marketing reach. So often we get approached often to ask to be partners, and by lots of different people. And we're always happy to say yes. But if we're the more powerful person in the room by a lot, like meaning we have the bigger list, we have more resources, then it's not a great partnership for us, because we don't want to be the biggest player in the room. So having an equal footing in the partnership strategy is really important. And making sure everybody has some skin in the game and something to bring to the table is critical. And then also we want to make sure we're collaborating to determine the right marketing mix. I was just telling Donna, I mean, we have over 100 registrants today. This event has had up to 300 registrants in the past, but the fact that we only had 2 weeks to market because of the holidays, it's pretty impressive because we all have the right marketing mix. So making sure everybody knows what the marketing rules are. You have a process. We have an outreach strategy. It's documented on paper and it's signed by everyone who's committing to the marketing strategy is critical to the success of this event. And it's going to be similarly critical to the success of any other co-marketing strategy that you put together. And then make sure you're planning and executing the right follow-up strategy. None of us want to have 800 emails after an event, right? We don't want to be spamming anybody. We want to make sure that there's an appropriate follow-up that is shared upon the partners so that everything is cohesive. So you guys we all have to talk to each other, and that's really important. So partnership marketing, if done well, can be wildly successful for a fraction of the cost. I will also warn you, though, that I have done partnership marketing that has not been successful, where I have ended up being the one to invest more of the cost or more of the effort, or or maybe somebody else's, or not everybody has the right marketing mix. And so the end result is not what we want it to be. So you have to make sure that you find the right partners and that you're willing to go into this very strategically and commit to certain things in order to make it successful. Otherwise, it can be a big waste of time. So let me do my next poll. Partnership marketing. Have you all leveraged partnership marketing in your marketing strategy? Give you guys a few more seconds. Okay, I will share it. It's cool that I can see everything. All right, so it looks like, again, it's pretty split down the middle. More people than I expected have not tried partnership marketing. So if you want to learn more about partnership marketing, you can check out this webinar. We have a whole webinar on it. On partnership marketing on our website. And again, I'm assuming Vicky's putting the link in. I'm sure she's doing a good job.
Okay. The links are in the chat, Rachel.
Thank you. You're the I never doubted you.
They're also clickable, so I'm pulling them off the website just
perfect. Thank you. Okay. Number 4, nurture, nurture, nurture. So I talked in number 2 about building your brand assets, building your database. And I also dropped my favorite stat that it takes on average 9 to 13 touches to engage your target audience. What does that mean? A touch is an email, a social post, a conversation with a salesperson, a hit to your website, a billboard view. It is an engagement with your brand. Now, your messaging, I just have to say this, even though it's not part of number 4, has to be consistent and right on with every touch. If you break your messaging strategy and you divert from your value propositions, you are not reinforcing the brand properly. So you need 9 to 13 consistent messaging touches to build trust in a brand. Now, that said, I have noticed with our clients across the board in 2023, or maybe from mid 2023 on, as budgets got tighter, those touches increased significantly. I was seeing 20 touches or more to get meetings. So one of the things that we often do, and I'm getting ahead of myself, in our strategy is marketing qualified leads and sales qualified leads in the database when we're doing lead scoring. Again, I'm going to talk more about that. It's really important to nurture that touch process in order to drive conversions for your sales team. Now, marketing automation. When you use marketing automation, it's based, and I'm going to explain a little bit about what it is. Your qualified leads go up over 400%. Your lead conversions go up over 30%. Your ROI increases significantly and your sales productivity increases significantly. I've had clients that only want hot leads, or what I call high intent leads, where they came in from Google and they're like, I want to buy something, because they found them through SEO or through PPC, and that's very high intent. It means they wanted to buy something, so they're coming in for a conversation. But the likelihood of those leads closing is significantly less than a lead that is in your database and that has been nurtured for a long period of time. I had somebody sign a contract on Friday in an hour because they had been in our database for 2 years. They already felt like they knew, like, and trust us. It was the easiest close that I've had in a long time. So nurturing matters if you can be patient enough for it and plan for it. What is marketing automation? I'm just doing a time check. What is marketing automation? Marketing automation is technology that handles marketing tasks without the need for human interaction. Now, I believe that's a little bit, that definition that I pulled off of Google is a little bit, it makes it sound a little too good to be true, because it really still does require human interaction in the form of monitoring. You want to be paying attention to the data. What automation does is it allows you to automate processes and then give you really smart data feedback to make even better decisions to improve your automation. It's a wonderful, wonderful ecosystem. So things like workflows for automation include email marketing, behavioral targeting, lead prioritization, and personalized targeting. I'm going to skip over email marketing for time today because I think we all know what that is. But if you think about, I've been on this kick with Athletica, like buying some joggers that I really like. But I left them in my cart, and sure enough, a couple, hours later, I got another email and then another email after that. And I'll give you guys a hint. If you do that, sometimes they send discounts to get you to check out of the cart. So that's an example of email automation. So that's a quick recap on email automation. I want to talk more about behavior tracking because that one's one that you guys might not have heard of. So that's the concept of following a user's path throughout the site. For example, seeing where somebody comes into the site, what their actions are while they're in the site, and what they're clicking on allows us to then do different things to engage with them based on personalization. So what types of emails should they get based on their clicks? What type of social messages will they get based on where they were on the website? It can trigger the right messages. For example, you can integrate Google Analytics with Salesforce on your website if you have Salesforce, and you can see leads that entered your database. What was their, what websites, what web pages did they touch? What was their first point of entry? Where did they navigate? How many times did they come? What was their last point of entry? I have a really interesting story here. So we work with a med tech company, and just for simplicity purposes, they had two different types of services: regulatory affairs and then prototype or engineering development for medical devices. We were running PPC ads, and it was not spending a little amount of money. They were spending quite a bit every month on both of these service lines. Now, the prototyping ads were doing great. They were converting really well. The regulatory was not. And we decided that we were going to turn the regulatory ads off. However, we caught that through the behavior tracking, that there was one particular campaign in regulatory that was driving traffic to regulatory pages. Then they were navigating over to prototyping and converting on the prototyping page. So they were traveling through the website from that ad, and it was producing a huge number of conversions for prototyping, but it was a regulatory ad. If we weren't paying attention to behavior tracking, we would have turned that ad off and lost a ton of revenue and not known why. So behavior tracking is the concept of being able to see how people are interacting, so you can target them differently in a more meaningful way. Lead nurturing and nurturing leads and lead prioritization. This is my favorite because it's so, what's that phrase? It's simple but not easy, or what? It's one of those, easy but not simple, or simple but not easy, because it's something that if you can set up the infrastructure, it can have such a huge impact. But 77% of buyers want a unique targeted content at each stage of their research and buying process. So to understand the buying process, think of it as a funnel. For example, we're taking the kids away for spring break. The first thing I'm looking at, where's there somewhere warm that I can take kids for spring break, is probably the first thing I'm going to Google or ask ChatGPT. Then I'm going to narrow it down to the Caribbean or Costa Rica or Mexico, and then I'm going to narrow it down further. So when you're going through your buying phases, you're starting in the research process, and then you're gradually narrowing it down in your buying behavior funnel. If you can get to somebody at the top of that funnel and nurture them through it, you're more likely to convert them. So how do we do this in a B2B marketplace or with a complex sale and using automation? I love the concept of lead scoring. So in our database, when somebody comes into my database, they're going to get they're going to be considered what's called a marketing qualified lead or an MQL. They're going to get nurtured in different ways as we see how people interact. Are they interested in this content or this content? Are they more likely to click on this message or this message? And slowly, as we're learning what they like and dislike, we are scoring them. Now, by the time it gets to the right scoring, my sales team, let's just call it 100. When it gets to 100, my sales team knows to look at them and say, okay, this person hit 100. They're showing interest and engagement in this topic. Now is a good time to reach out to them or contact them. because it triggers. What happens is you get so many leads into your auditorium or your database. Your sales team is like, I've got 500 leads here. I don't know what to do. But if they're being nurtured through MQLs or marketing qualified leads, and then it triggers your sales team at the right time, they can jump into the right lead at the right time and know how and when to follow up with them based on preference. So lead scoring is something that if you have a CRM, it's not, again, I don't want to say it's like super easy to implement, but it's very doable to implement. And it can have a huge impact on your ultimate conversion and the cost of your lead down the road. The last one is personalized advertising. How many of you have said near Alexa that the other day I was saying that I needed, we call our vacuum Sharky that moves around automatically. I said I needed a new Sharky vacuum because that's the brand. And I was sitting next to Alexa, and the next thing I know, I open up Amazon and there are Sharky vacuums all over the place at discounted rates. So that is the concept of retargeting or targeting based on behavior and interest. There's also geofencing. So anybody who's married, you can know what your spouse or your children are looking at, because if they're geofencing, like I keep getting Minecraft ads on my phone because my son loves Minecraft. So they're geofencing our house or our radius. But my point is that based on interaction, you can do personalized advertising, and that can come in through, they came to your website, so we're going to show them this information. They went to a competitor website, so we're going to show them this information. We can retarget them. So they saw something, and so we're going to retarget our website back to them. So using personalized advertising based on interaction is a great way to keep that 9 to 13 touch process engaged. So if you have it does take a little, this of all the steps is probably going to take you the most thought to implement, but it's going to have the greatest impact. So automation by far is going to take your marketing to the next level. If you invest in it this year, it's going to definitely pay off in spades next. So I have no, I don't think this is my last poll. My second to last poll, I'm going to launch. Marketing automation. How many of you leverage marketing automation?
And while Rachel's gathering that data, let me just say that we will shortly go to Q&A. So please start dropping your questions into that section so the fabulous Miss Vicky Hart can facilitate that conversation.
Thank you, Donna. Okay. One more second, and then I'm going to end the poll. All right. Okay. So it looks like most of us are not using automation. Some of us have, and it's done really well, and some feel we're not using it effectively. So this is definitely something that, if used effectively, can make an impact in your strategy. And ultimately, it will bring your sales costs down by far, because it's an investment in, it's something that you do want to invest in, and it will be a little bit of time and resource investment, but ultimately it's going to make your cost of a sale come way, way down. Okay. And so as a recap, the 4 strategies to increase market share: identify new audiences. All of us can do this today. It can make a big difference. Look at your brand assets or your brand asset strategy. Leverage partnership marketing, but just make sure you find the right partner. And again, something you can do today at low cost. And implement marketing automation. Again, a little more of a time and money investment, but will have the biggest impact on your return. So last, I mentioned I have a lot of information. We have a ton of resources. I'd be happy to send you all some more. So if you guys want to outline for me, if you want to receive more resources, and if so, in what, I can send them to you after the webinar. And I'll give you guys a few minutes here. Okay, and I'll let that keep running for a second. All right, and with that, I will, if I can figure, I'm doing really well on this. I'm crushing this. Okay, I think I stopped sharing. Did I?
No, we still see your
All right, I think I stopped sharing. All right, so with that, I will switch over to Q&A.
Taking yourself off of the screen, so.
All right, and I'm going to share the poll. All right. Okay, so with that, we will jump into Q&A. I will also put my email in the chat. If anybody is interested in a consult or getting more information or has questions and I don't get to right now, I'm happy to answer them.
So as a reminder, please drop any questions in the Q&A section. We had a very lively chat today. So Rachel, thank you so much for sharing such amazing information. So I have some questions that were sent to us upon registration. And Maureen Gobran wanted from Sandler Training was asking, how do you ensure that the sales team and the marketing team, this is such a great question, that the sales team and the marketing team are speaking the same language and have the same goals?
That is oh my gosh. So Cal and I did a presentation once, maybe we should do it again, Cal, on how to get marketing and sales to talk to each other. Cause it's always like, it's their fault, right? Because we think different languages, right? Marketing people have quantitative like heads for data and creativity. Salespeople have different mindsets. So making sure one of the things that we do, oh, apparently my video's not on. Thanks, Donna. One of the things that we do on a regular basis, I'm nailing this, guys.
You really are. You're like a tech. You're amazing.
Thank you. One of the things that we do when we're meeting with our clients is we meet with the sales team on a weekly basis. Not just the C-suite understanding the strategy, but getting feedback loops. What worked? What didn't? A CRM can make a huge difference in alignment. So setting up those MQL leads and those SQL leads and having conversations with the data right in front of you each week allows us to understand, like, was this lead the right type of lead? So for example, that medtech company I mentioned, we would meet with the sales team weekly and say, okay, you got a phone call from PPC ad and they didn't close, but was it the right type of lead? Because even if they didn't close, do you want more leads like that? So making sure that we're having constant conversations and feedback loops is the best way to get your sales and marketing team in alignment.
And just a jargon alert, marketing sales qualified leads, marketing qualified leads and sales qualified leads for the MQL and the SQL. I had to ask that question too. So wait, I'm supposed to do what? This is a perfect example of I'm the SQL person.
But it's so nice, Vicky, right? Because we're like, here's your list. And you're like,
right. No, and
yeah,
I can't speak enough of how important it is for the marketing team and the sales team to work together. Like we're all rowing the boat in the same direction. And that was part of a webinar once where it was like the sales team and the marketing team, they didn't like each other or they didn't work together. And I was like, but why? I mean, creating this awesome funnel. And if it's done right, it's creating a spigot of high quality leads for you to nurture. So I'm all into it. So our next question comes from Santish, and I apologize if I'm not saying your name correctly, Kumar, and he asks, how do you connect big clients to support their hiring needs as a recruitment vendor? So how to connect with big clients to support their hiring needs as a recruitment vendor.
So the challenge with some of recruiting, we work with recruiting firms, is that it can be seen as a commodity, right? So you have to get into, for the larger companies, you have to get into their procurement. You've got to go through the hoops. It's really a similar sales process about land and expand. So for the larger companies, if you can get into their procurement or get into a decision maker and position yourself as a consultant, landing and expanding them, it's the same strategy. It's that touch process. It's the nurturing. LinkedIn Sales Navigator is great for that because if you can figure out the point of contact in one company, you can usually build enough relationships internally to nurture them to get to the right person. But what's also cool is we can do behavioral targeting or personalized targeting on LinkedIn. So if we know you want a certain reach, we can continue to market to those people. So it's really the same strategy in a smaller ecosystem.
Terrific. Now, our friend Hope Horowitz, I think this is such a great question about size of organization. I always think about a CRM, but we are a small company, only 3 employees, and the budget isn't there. It feels like I'm constantly in a cart before the horse situation. And I mean, and how many of us use our Constant Contact or our Outlook inbox as a database?
I would say that if you invest in this now, it will be a little bit painful to adopt, but if you invest in this now, it's going to save you money down the road. It doesn't have to be expensive. I know Donna, I won't speak for you in pricing, but Donna's implemented Zoho for small clients for a couple $1,000s, right?
Yeah, I did want to jump on because I think that if you there, the short answer is whatever you invest in CRM will give you one of the best returns on any money you will ever invest in your business, because it's going to automate, it's going to help you segment, which is your form of lead qualification until you get to the point where you really have the segmenting scores down. So it doesn't have to be very expensive, but you have to have especially in a smaller firm, we try to manage expectations around the length of time it will take you to implement and harness the power of, because in smaller organizations, you're kind of building the plane as you fly it. And that's kind of what you end up doing with CRM, is you do the basic setup and then you continue building. And that's how we started. We now have a 15,000 person database, and we're using marketing automation. And we are seeing, as we segment, we are getting those incredible open rates and click rates. And I had a couple of offices recently. And so we did a targeted mailing to people who were on our wait list. And we had such a great response that instead of scheduling tours, the girls said, let's do an open house. I'm like, great idea. Yeah. So, you really get to perfect and up level what you're doing as you go along. Sorry.
Yeah, and the interesting thing, I was a small business owner before Rachel lured me away to infrastructure, which I did not have, is that if you put that infrastructure in place, and to Donna's point that she made earlier, and to our next webinar, if you're not thinking about when you start your business how you're going to sell it, but you make your business inherently more valuable because you're creating.
Absolutely. Forget selling it. How about just not working 100 hours a week? Like, forget selling it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So there's all sorts of ideas on the table. It's just not working 100 hours a week. Maybe one day, what is your exit strategy if you're that prescient to think that, Donna, 30 years ago? So it becomes an invaluable tool. And funny enough, it starts as a Rolodex, almost that virtual Rolodex, and then it becomes this amazing tool. Because Rachel, you can ask Rachel, took me a little bit to adopt to it, but it is invaluable now. Like, it is part of my everyday, where it was not for a while. And it just made my lead flow so much more high quality. So I was putting I was investing my time in high quality outreach. So that's an excellent question. Next, Michael Carl asks, how might all of this apply to an area specific service industry? Landscape maintenance and construction specifically. So how does all of this?
It's really a similar concept. Now this is going to be a little bit of a different sales strategy. So you still want to be filling the database. You still want to be facilitating the touch process, but here you can rent more than buy. So I was talking about how important it is to buy, but with consumer industries, you can rent and get greater awareness. So there's definitely the same process, but the marketing approach is a little bit different.
So,
and the psychographics on the audience is the same. I understand, like, you might have only one or two audiences, but their needs, you really want to understand the why behind what they need. And it's the same approach, the same necessity for the audience matrix.
And if you're an industry that actually that services like construction and has healthcare as a client also, you have such a broad spectrum of how your audience is, not only how they consume their information, what matters to them. So it's all important to be able to track that information so you can deploy very strategic nurturing campaigns to be able to reach them in a way that matters to them, which ties in all of the audience matrix, understanding them. And so preach, Rachel, preach. I think that we have one more question that just says,
I'm not sure I understand it though.
Yeah, I'm not, but I think we definitely addressed how do you approach different industries, and it really is knowing your audience. It's the sacred chalice of marketing, right? First and foremost, understand your audience and understand what matters to them, not only from a demographic standpoint, but from that psychographic standpoint.
So with that, again, I think I put my, I think I sent my email to, I'm really crushing it today on
Technology, you really.
technology, but I
you're
sent my
showing
email to just Donna. So if anybody wants to have a conversation, I am sending my email along. Also, as a reminder, make sure you register today for our February event. I'm really excited. I heard Scott speak and he was awesome. And then lastly, if we are looking for sponsors, so if you're interested in sponsorship, it's industry exclusive. Reach out to Donna. She put her email in the chat earlier.
And can I just say
Sure.
one thing that I love that we do with the sponsorship? The sponsorship dollars are not about Rachel and I making money. The sponsorship dollars about expanding our combined reach. Every dollar we get,
We don't make any money off of it. It's all just
advertising the event. So I don't know if that was conveyed, and I just, it was kind of one of Rachel's many sheer strokes of brilliance, and it served us very well. So just wanted to clarify that. So thank you all so much for joining our first Business Growth Roundtable of 2024. And we will see you in February and beyond. You'll get follow-up emails from the Paradigm team. Reach out to any of us if you have any questions. Thanks so much for attending, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you now.